All right, so we will get rolling here. I've got a couple of resources that will pop in the chat as we go here, just so everybody's got those. But we've got a couple workbooks. We've got a little workbook and a spreadsheet here that we'll share with you guys so that you can participate. You've got a little bit of a working class here today. So, the goal of this, of course, is to leave with some actionable things that you can take into 2025 to set yourselves up for success. Great to see all the intros there in the chat. So, that's awesome. All right. So, curious here as we get running. I'd love to hear a little bit more from you guys. How was the year? Let me know. Did you meet your 2024 goals? Feel free to pop a yes in the chat. Or if you're not quite there yet, you got a few weeks. So we're doing good. Or if anybody wants to comment on that, love to hear how this year has been. Did you meet your goals? Free to pop in a meet or didn't meet. Still working on it.
Can
I
I
know this.
comment from an audio standpoint?
Yeah, absolutely.
I
Hey,
mean,
Dave.
good morning. I mean, we work in conjunction with Crystal on we're a marketing agency, um, but the Vancouver market or the BC market is a little bit different. Like we have the Fortis rebates out here, and so those just kicked in probably I'm gonna say 6 months ago now. And so there's huge rebates. So people are getting systems out here for, very minimal amounts.
Mm,
So, with all the interest rates being so high and now they're starting to come down and it's been an about face to the point where, one of our clients really had like October was a record-breaking month for them. So,
amazing. Yeah, I know the rebates can have a huge impact
yes.
on business,
Yeah.
often positive, which is great, sometimes negative, or it creates these really big peaks and valleys. So that can
Yep.
always be challenging. But yeah, thanks for sharing, Dave, and good to see you here. All right. And Paul says we're happy with this year. That's awesome. So, yeah, I mean, I find the end of the year, it's always a good time to reflect on what worked in your business, what didn't, what were some things that could have gone a little differently. And we're definitely going to dig into those things today. And more importantly, plan for the future, what the next year looks like for you guys. So, love to hear in the chat as well what industry you're in. I know that we work with a lot of HVAC companies, but we've also got some home builders, some other trades, got our agency folks in here too. So if you could let us know in the comments what industry you're in, what kind of business you have, we'd love to hear that. So, what we're going to talk about today, of course, is planning your marketing for 2025 and really getting granular into what your targets are and what you're going to need to do to be able to hit those. So, we've got a lot to cover in an hour. Definitely want to make this as actionable and impactful as possible for you as possible in the time that we have here. So, talking through a little bit about reflective here. So, we've been in business for 10 years now. We are very proud to work in the trades. We've had so many amazing clients over the years and great team members, and so happy to have you all here. So, of course, what we want to share today is really about arming you with the tools to make sure that you get the goals that you're looking for in the next year so that when we do this in December 2025, you can all tell me, like, yeah, absolutely met my goals, definitely exceeded it. Things are where we want to be. So, specifically, what we will go through today is breaking down your goals and your budget for 2025. So, not only do we want to know from a revenue perspective, where you want to be for the next year, how that breaks down on a monthly basis, also figuring out what that means in terms of your marketing budget. How many leads do you need? How many appointments, book jobs? How many quotes do you need to send to be able to actually hit those numbers? So we're going to dive really deep into that. And again, going to give you some resources to be able to do that live on the call. So we're going to make this something that at the end of this training session, you're walking away with a game plan. That's the ultimate goal. Second part of that, of course, is mapping out your lead generation strategy. So once you know how many leads you need, what you should anticipate in terms of costs, what you should anticipate in terms of how many of those people are going to convert into sales, that's really going to give you the KPIs that you need to be able to continue to grow this year. And then we're going to talk about what's working in the industry right now when it comes to advertising and what you can anticipate is coming next. So, this is all about arming you to hit the ground running come January. So, if this sounds like a good plan, go ahead and give me a yes or a thumbs up in the comments there. Love to hear if you're on board. This sounds good. This is what we want to get out of today. All right. Thanks, Sam. Woo. Okay, so let's dig into it a little bit here. So, we want to break down your goals and your budget for 2025. So, I'm going to give everybody a second here to load up the workbook. Sam, if you don't mind popping that link in the chat here, and I will bring it up here so you can see this as well. So, we're going to start with this. We'll move to a spreadsheet in a couple of minutes, but for now, just want to pen to paper. And if you prefer actual pen to paper, go for that too. You can jot this down. We're going to work through a snapshot of the year that just passed and then really digging into your goals for 2025. So, I'll give everybody a second to load that up. Just give me a yes in the comments if you've got that, if that doc worked there for you. Okay, I see some nods. Nods are good too. Perfect. All right, awesome. So I'm going to assume everybody is on the page there. Okay, Grace says it's asking for permission. You should be able to, when you click that link, let me just share this here. Let me know if you can see that, but it should be prompting you to copy the document. So that'll give you a copy, which you can then just modify. That's your own version. So you should be seeing that come up. So Grace, let us know if that's working for you. If not, Sam, maybe you can give her like a downloaded one. Okay, let me just double check maybe we've got some sharing permissions here. If I do, anyone with the link can view. That might have been my bad. So I'll make sure that
I don't know if we're
this
on
is
there.
set up.
Yeah, actually, Crystal, could you send it to me too? I don't think I received it.
Yeah, sure. So the link should be popping up in the chat there.
Oh,
Let me see
okay.
if I can pin that. Sam or client success
Oh, I
just
see it.
pop
Yeah.
that there.
Looks
Okay,
like
perfect.
great.
Good. Okay, excellent. All right.
Oh, okay.
Yes, always silly permissions, always getting me down. Okay, I'm glad that's working there for everybody now. All right, so let's start with your annual goal. So we want to think about, or let me back up here. So first, thinking about 2024. It's good to get a snapshot of where you were this year, what things looked like on average, so that you know what you'll be able to accomplish in the next year. So, starting out with 2024, just as we're chatting through here, noting down what your average monthly revenue was. If you're not sure, if you want to ballpark for the year, divide that by 12, just to get a bit of a baseline of where you've been at on average every month. so far for 2024. And then noting down the number of jobs or customers that you had on average per month. So what we want to do here, again, just get an idea of where things were at over the last year so we can plan for the future. Okay, you'll also see there are some other key metrics there. So definitely feel free to pop in any of the data that you know. The other thing is if you're not sure, this is great to start to think about. These are numbers that you can start to track on a more regular basis so that you know your stuff and you're able to make informed decisions.
Crystal, sorry to interrupt, but Chloe just asked if you wanted it divided between install and service.
Yeah, great question. Thanks, Chloe. So that is definitely up to you. I think it's good to have, if you know those numbers, then yeah, I think the more detail, the better. Awesome. Okay. And we won't go through all of this on the call. Obviously, some of these things take a little bit of deeper reflection and really thinking about the year past. But one of the things that I always like to look at as well is what were some of the disappointments from the year? And then you can think through, okay, how do I avoid that going forward? What did I learn from some of those disappointments? And then accomplishments. I think in small business, we are always looking ahead. We're never necessarily giving ourselves that nice little pat on the back for the great things that happened over the last year. So, noting some of the accomplishments that have happened in the last year and how you were able to do those things. So, I definitely encourage you to do that as a little bit of your homework. Okay, but moving towards the future and what we're here for. So let's just jot down what your goal is in terms of annual revenue looking at 2025. And for some of you, you may have other goals that are beyond just the revenue side of things, right? So if there are other goals that you want to make sure that you hit in the next year, definitely jot those down. I've got a couple ideas there just to get your mind going. For some people, they want to expand their number of locations, or maybe it's more about how much time they're spending on certain things in the business versus being in the field, for example. So thinking about what some other goals that you'll want to attract over the next year. So jotting a couple of those things down. And again, got a short little window here, so I am giving you the speed version, but I definitely encourage you to jot some of these things down. And if there's something that you want to give a little bit more deeper thought to, you can definitely come back to this. And then more importantly, why are those your goals? So, of course, we all want to grow. That's often a big piece of the puzzle and why we're moving forward, but understanding a little more about what is that number if we're shooting for an annual revenue goal, what is that going to allow you to do in your business or in your life that you can't do right now? Because certainly when business gets a little bit tough, this is the thing that's going to drive you forward. So does anyone, I'd love to hear from you guys. Anyone want to share one of the goals that they're working for or what's motivating your growth, why you want to hit those goals this year? Does anyone have a goal beyond annual revenue that is really important to you for the next year? I know, tough questions, right? Okay, Glenn says to bring on a technician and add a second van. Awesome. That's great to hear, Glenn. Okay, great. So take that bit of time to note down your goals. And now we're going to get into some of the specifics of how we can actually make that happen. So, hopping over to mapping out an effective lead generation strategy and really taking these goals and breaking them down. So, what I'm going to get you to do here is we're going to move on to this next piece, which is our lead generation planner. So, we will pop a link to the spreadsheet in the chat here as well. Thank you, Sam, in advance. So I'll double check my settings. We're good. So what we're going to run through with this one is really breaking down those goals into tangible numbers. So we know exactly how we're going to get here. So what you will see, I'll give everybody a second here to open up this spreadsheet. Sam just popped that in the chat there. Let us know if you're having any difficulties accessing that. Okay, just give me a yes or not or thumbs up if you've got that open. Thank you, Darren. Thanks, Chloe. Okay, perfect. So what you're going to see here, this spreadsheet, anything that's in orange, this is for you to fill in. So you can fill in your own annual revenue goal here, your average ticket or average sale value. We'll go through all this in a little bit more detail here now in a second.
Sorry, Crystal, I just had one quick question.
Yeah.
I know the answer is already, but I just wanted to double check. Since it said when we opened the link to make a copy, that's our own individual copy. Since it's a shared spreadsheet, I'm not going to be working on somebody else's or their numbers, right?
Yes. Thank you, Darren. That's a great point. So yeah, anything you're putting on these because you're making your own copy, nobody else is seeing that. That's just for you.
Okay.
Awesome. Great point, Darren. So yeah, what we're seeing here, I've got some dummy details here. You know, if we were working towards a revenue goal of 3 million for the next year. And what the spreadsheet does is once you fill in that annual number, that's going to automatically break that down to you into a monthly goal. So you can see in this example, if we want to do 3 million in the next year, then our monthly goal will be 250,000. Okay, so looking at this, going back to Chloe's point here too, for everyone here in the HVAC industry, I've got an average ticket value here based on installs of 8,000. So you might have a blended average ticket between service and install, or you might want to do that one or the other, or breaking that down a little bit further. I will leave that to you. This is just simplified into one average ticket just for the purposes of making this nice and easy for everybody to break down. Anybody else? I know we got Steve in home building and renovation. So what your average sale value is, average customer value there. Okay, and then that, once you fill in that average sale there, that's going to break it down into the number of jobs or customers that you're going to need every month to be able to hit that 250,000. Okay, so give me a yes or a thumbs up or a nod if we're good. We've got our annual in there. We've broken it down. Grace says yes. Awesome. Thank you, Grace. Okay, number of jobs that we would need. Okay, so once we've got that, pretty straightforward. So now we know what we need to hit in terms of the number of jobs. So yeah, Chloe, in terms of new customers, I guess you could look at this in a couple different ways. If you wanted to do overall, like I want to make 3 million overall in the next year, then this will break down the number of customers or jobs that you would need to do that. So that would be both existing and new. But if you did want to focus more on, assuming you're at a certain level already for 2025 and you are looking to add additional revenue, if you want to plan this more as like an additional revenue, so I want to add an extra 3 million on top of whatever I will probably do with existing customers, you can do it that way too. Got it. Okay, great. Awesome. Okay, so we've got 31 monthly jobs. Now we need to figure out if that's the number of jobs that we need, how does that break down into the number of leads that I need to generate every month? So again, in orange, these fields in orange here, you can fill out the numbers that you have. Okay, so this is based on what we see in terms of some averages in the HVAC industry. So the average conversion rate to sale from an appointment or book job. So 50%. So if you're in somebody's home, you give them a quote, 50% of those, that's going to differ market to market and your different marketing sources and all those sorts of things. But what you're typically seeing in terms of sales conversion rate, if you want to fill in that number. So in this case, if we need 31 jobs a month, then we're probably going to have to book 63. I think there's some rounding here because 31 times 2 is 62, not 63, but spreadsheets, they're friends. Okay, so fill out your percentage in terms of appointment to sale, and then your average conversion rate from lead to book job. So yeah, Grace asks, is focusing only on install, right? Or does it include maintenance and service? Whatever is going to be most helpful for you. So you could also, if you wanted, you could duplicate this sheet, do one for installs and one for service, if that makes it more tangible for you. Otherwise, this is overall, I've got some numbers in here based on installs. Yes. Okay, so once we've got, okay, we need 63 book jobs or appointments or consultations, depending on your sales process there. But once we've got that number, then we need to figure out, okay, in order to get those 63 book jobs or appointments or consults, how many leads do we need to get that? So going a step further, if we see 40% of the leads that are coming in on average are actually going ahead to that booked appointment, then we know that we need to hit 156. So again, the spreadsheet's going to break this down for you. You just need to fill in your percentages here. Okay, does anyone just see where you guys are at? Does anyone want to share the number of leads that they're going to need per month to hit their targets? I know I'm making you do math. It's rude. Okay. If you don't want to share, that's okay. But give me a yes, a thumbs up, a nod. Let me know that you've gotten to this place. I just want to make sure I'm not moving too fast, too slow. Grace says pace is good. Thank you, Grace. It's good to know. All right, perfect. So we've got our monthly leads, and now we need to figure out, okay, what's the budget that we need to be able to get the number of leads we want, to get the number of appointments that we want, to get the monthly sales, all the way up to our annual revenue. Okay, so this number here, again, this is going to vary market to market, if you're in a different industry, all that sort of stuff, but this is a good kind of nationwide number. that we're looking at in terms of average cost per lead in HVAC. So we've got 75 here. If your number is different, then definitely fill that in here. Okay. So that's going to give you the budget, the advertising budget that you need to be able to hit those leads, the appointments, the jobs that you need to be able to get to that annual revenue goal. Okay, awesome. So what we can take with that then, now we've got a bit of a game plan here. You can go ahead, if this works for you, you can go ahead and keep that in your spreadsheet. There's also a place here. So you've just got some quick numbers here in terms of what your annual revenue goal is, how that breaks down into monthly, and number of book jobs or appointments, and then your number of leads. So you can go ahead and fill that in so you've got a game plan going forward. Okay, so with that in mind, this is giving you your budget, which is basically based on the number of leads that you need multiplied by your average cost per lead, right? So that's giving you this. Now, to give you another tool, another way to look at things is if we then take that marketing budget and pop that into this calculator, this is actually going to help you to project your return on investment from your marketing. Again, this is pretty simplified. You can use this for different channels. Your numbers may be a little bit different, maybe different install versus service. But to give you a bit of a format to work with, if you plug in your advertising budget here, again, we've got same cost per lead, same cost per booked appointment, closing ratio, or average ticket, in this case for an install, and profit. And then if you are working with a marketing agency or you've got somebody on your marketing team, their salary, you can actually plug that number in here as well. This will give you an idea of how many leads, appointments, sales, and then actually tracking the revenue and profit that you should anticipate on a monthly basis based on all those numbers that we went through here. Okay, how we doing? Does this all make sense? Thumbs up, nods, not so much. Okay, good. I see some thumbs up, some nods. Excellent. Okay. Now the next piece, and we won't go super in depth into this. Again, these are just some tools to help you to be able to really map this out. But what you can also do is use this as a budgeting planner. So we've got our annual projected revenue here. When you're planning your overall marketing budget as well, you want to know that what you're going to spend in 2025 may not be the same as what you're going to spend in 2024. Because if you want to get to that next level in revenue, you probably have to spend more to be able to get there. So we've got our monthly numbers here. We can calculate your return on investment, all that sort of stuff. But on a bigger picture level, how much should you be spending total that you should dedicate to your marketing budget overall? Okay, thank you, Sam. So Sam just popped in the chat there for anybody who's just joined. We've got a spreadsheet here that will make a copy. This is what we're running through here now. So you can click that link in the chat to get this up here. Okay, so typically what we're seeing is looking at 10% if you're looking to grow. So 10% of your revenue spent on your marketing. This just gives you some rule of thumb. Again, it may differ depending on industry and all that sort of stuff, but generally we're seeing 7 to 10% of your revenue is spent on your marketing budget if you want to grow. And if you're looking to grow more aggressively, maybe that's higher. Maybe you're looking at 11, 12, 14%, or if it's more of a status quo kind of thing, then you might be lower than that to kind of keep things conservative. Okay, so you can punch in the number there that makes sense for you. And when we're thinking about your marketing overall, it's really good to know what channels are actually working for you. So if you look back on the sales that you've had over the last year, where are most of your leads coming from? And proportional to what you've spent on those channels as well. So curious, anybody here, if you want to chime in the chat here, what was a channel that brought you a lot of leads in your business over the last year? Or even more broadly, you know, online marketing versus offline versus focusing on repeat business. I know Chloe mentioned accounting for current customer jobs. Okay, so once you've filled those in, Van says Facebook. Thank you, Van. Dave says variety of channels. Shauna says repeat customers and word of mouth. Awesome. Google search. Excellent. Okay, good. Great to hear that. So yeah, depending on what has worked for you, these percentages may be different, right? So you want to do more of what's working and you want to dedicate more budget to that. And then you also want to make sure that you are accommodating other channels as well, because big thing that many of us in business know already is that it's really hard to depend on just one channel, because if something happens, that channel stops working, then it's going to be a big scramble for you to be able to maintain the leads that you need to keep your sales team busy, keep your technicians busy. Okay, Charmaine says Google and LSA. Awesome. Cool. So this will just help you to divvy up your budget over the broader categories of online, offline, and repeat business, and then breaking that down on a monthly basis as well. And again, you've got percentages here that you can play with to give yourself a total marketing budget for the year. Okay, awesome. So looking at the time here, I want to make sure that we're chugging along, but any questions about the process, or give me a thumbs up, give me a nod. If we're good, this is helpful. This has given you some of the details that you need to plan the year ahead. Thank you, Glenn. Awesome. Okay, great. So now that we've got this, we've got a breakdown here in terms of the numbers that we need to hit. So again, you got that in your spreadsheet. We do have this workbook here as well. You will see that link in the chat there, but this gives you some details that you can work on for the year ahead. And then as a little added bonus as well, we've got a bit of a checklist for you to be able to audit your online presence. Thank you, Sam. So link there again. This is just some of the things to think about when it comes to your social media channels, your website, SEO, Google Maps, paid search, lead conversion, all that sort of stuff. Okay, and if anybody needs one-on-one help, we've also got a link there if you want to book a free strategy call where we can dig into your situation more specifically and how we can help you get there. Okay, so moving right along here. Let's talk about what's working now and what's coming next, especially when it comes to HVAC marketing on the Facebook ad side of things, which is our jam. So why we talk about advertising on Facebook and Instagram in particular is that if you're a homeowner, it's winter, your furnace breaks, you have no heat, where are you going? Any comments? Any comments in the chat? So most of those people, they're in an emergency situation. Yeah, you got it. Darren, Van, they're going to Google. Absolutely. Those are people that they know they need help. They know they need heating and cooling services. They're going to Google. but they're only representing between 3 and 10% of the market because they're in the situation that they need it now. What we're able to do with social media advertising is to proactively get in front of homeowners in your service area who may not be in this emergency situation, may not be this super hot lead that, they need their furnace fixed yesterday, but they're a bigger portion of the market. And oftentimes I find that contractors and honestly some agencies as well, they're just not thinking about social media as that way to be able to generate leads in a way that you're getting ahead of the buying process. You're able to get in front of these homeowners before they're even calling your competition because you're in front of them first. So that's why we've seen such success on this channel, with one of our clients, the Chill Brothers, as an example, Olivia, who's the marketing manager there. They always found that, the off season could be pretty rough for them. And they saw a lot of opportunity with paid social ads. So what we've been able to do is even in the off season for them, they're spending up to 20,000 a month on Facebook ads, and they've been able to expand and really continue to grow even in the off season because they're using paid social to get in front of homeowners when their competitors just aren't there. So what that looks like on a more practical level and what we're seeing working right now. There has been a lot that has happened this year and trends that continue to occur this year in Facebook advertising. So a couple of the things that you should be aware of as we head into 2025. One is a real crackdown on credit ads. So for a long time, financing, as an example, has been something you can absolutely advertise on Facebook and Instagram. But if you are not declaring a special ad category, if you're not telling Facebook that this is an ad for credit, what we've seen happen is that we've seen some clients in this industry that are getting their ad, well, on a best case scenario, your ad gets rejected. Oops, you fix it and you go back. But we have heard tons of horror stories of, ad accounts being outright banned because they're not following Facebook's policies. So this is definitely something you need to be aware of. This has been in place for years now, but we have seen that Facebook has gotten more and more sensitive to it, I would say. So this is something you definitely don't want to mess around with. If you're doing financing ads, you want to make sure that you're declaring that special ad category because you could really, really run into some chaos and trouble if you're not doing that and at risk of getting your account shut down. Nobody wants to anger Facebook. So that's something to keep in mind. There are, of course, some limitations when you declare a special ad category, mostly with targeting, but we're going to talk about why that doesn't matter as much anymore. Okay, targeting. So years ago, I would have said the more detailed you can get with your Facebook targeting, the better. But Meta has gotten so advanced with its algorithm, all the info that it collects from, the pixel and having their code on millions of websites and all our data and on our phones, all that creepy stuff. Because of that, you really don't need to give Meta much in terms of targeting to be able to get in front of the people that you want. In fact, Facebook has taken away a lot of the targeting options you have anyway. Now, when you're putting in interests, if you're trying to get people interested in home improvement or heating and cooling or whatever, Facebook is just taking those as suggestions. It's not even necessarily using that anymore. And I don't know if anybody here has created an ad campaign on Facebook lately, but you have to click a ton of little details to even be able to get into the detailed targeting that you're used to. They're really pushing all of this kind of automatic targeting. So targeting continues to be something that is more and more left in the control of Facebook. For the most part, that's been a good thing, and we've often seen much better results by giving Facebook the flexibility when it comes to targeting. I will say that we have seen there are some occasions where, especially with your location targeting, if you're not careful, there are sometimes settings where Facebook will automatically check for you that it will show your ads to people visiting or that are slightly outside of your area. So those are little details when you're setting up your campaign that you want to be aware of to make sure that you are getting people in your service area. Beyond that, though, the more flexibility you can give Facebook, the better your performance is going to be. On that note, similarly, we are seeing a continued rise in AI in Facebook advertising specifically. So Meta's really pushing all their Advantage Plus features. So Advantage Plus Audience, which is basically that automatic targeting. Automatic placements has been a thing for a number of years now. And again, generally seeing better results by doing that. You'll also see that it's giving more options in terms of AI copy and settings and enhancements on your graphics and photos and videos, all that sort of stuff. So we are still seeing that. And really, it's about knowing what to leverage, knowing what actually works, and testing things rather than just letting Facebook totally do its thing, because sometimes it does weird stuff. So we did have one client that had an ad running that talked about the terms and services, like in their ad messaging. And it was because there was an AI checkbox that just made this really weird out to lunch ad that made no sense. So you do have to be careful. Make sure you're double checking things, because Meta's going to turn on some random AI settings on you sometimes, and that can affect your results.
Yeah, okay. Hey, thank you. Yeah.
Hey, Van. I don't know if you unmuted on purpose. If you have a question, feel free to pipe up. Okay, I'm going to assume that's accidental. All right, so those are a few things to be aware of. On that note, we're really seeing that AI content can be beneficial. Again, it's all about knowing what to use and why and when. But more and more, we are seeing that authentic content is beating AI. And the reason for that is that, if I see Glenn in CURP, then I know that Glenn's a real person. He's representing that company in a way that, an AI graphic is just never going to make that personal connection. So if you can do more authentic videos, even simple things like this one with the Chill Brothers, they just have somebody driving by in their van. This is not, super complicated, high-tech stuff. It can just be simple video content, photos of actual work that you've done. This stuff overall is overperforming versus some of this, AI generated imagery, stock photos, that type of stuff that really has no personal connection to your audience. And Meta supports that as well. It will generally push this type of content and give you better costs because it knows that it gets more engagement from real people when you've got real people in your advertising. So curious, anybody attending here live, have you experimented with AI content at all? Have you been doing more video? Always great to hear some real life experience here. Vance has not yet. Awesome. And video as a whole is rising for the most part with Facebook ads. Meta does report that static ads are still the best performing in terms of overall, but we've seen a number of clients that have been able to cut their cost per lead by like 50, 70%. because they're using a video with a real person in it. So if you are not using video in your business, start to do that. It's probably the most impactful thing that you can do for your lead generation advertising. Get on video, get somebody on video. Charmaine says she's trying to convince certain people to get on camera. I hear you, Charmaine. Okay, so video is huge. Doesn't have to be super complicated. All right, and then the last thing going into this year, I'm sure I could talk for 3 hours about what's working and what's next and all that stuff, but to give you some highlights going into the next year. Next thing is to protect your assets. Okay, so we are seeing, and this is no big news, right? But we're seeing more and more instances of spam on all marketing channels. It's not just Facebook. But certainly you want to make sure that you're using two-factor authentication, you're using Business Suite. So you've got, I equate it to the house that all your assets on Meta lives in. So you've got your Instagram account, your Facebook page, your ad account, your pixel, all that stuff. It's all within Business Suite or Business Manager. They've called it a few things over the years. The reason for that, it gives you one central place that everything is held, and you have a lot more control over who has access to what. And there's a lot more protections in place. So you really want to make sure you've got Business Suite, Business Manager set up properly, that you own it. So if you're working with a marketing agency and they set something up for you, make sure that you own that asset, because it can be really difficult to, even with best intentions and all that sort of thing, if you move on from that marketing agency, they lose team members, different things happen, it can get lost. So those are things that you really want to make sure that you have full ownership on, and everything is set up. You've got two-factor authentication, all that good stuff. All right, so those are a couple of things to set yourselves up for success in 2025. We've got a game plan when it comes to the goals you want to hit, what you need in terms of leads, jobs, and marketing budget to be able to get there, and then giving you some of these tips on how you can best leverage social media advertising to set yourselves up to hit those goals in 2025. So this is all just a part of the piece of the puzzle in our system and what we're able to do for companies like yours. So again, if anybody wants some one-on-one support, we have a free strategy call. Happy to get into that. And if you guys have any questions, I would love to hear from you. We've got a couple extra minutes before we clue up here. So let me know what you thought of this. What's one thing that you're going to take away from our session today? You can pop it in the chat or feel free to unmute. Love to hear from you guys. All right. So Shauna says she's going to review her marketing budget. Excellent. So question here, if Facebook does ban your account due to advertising error, is there a way out? Yes, there is. Biggest thing there is to appeal as quickly as possible. So anytime Facebook does ban your account, you will get a notice. You will get that by email. If your Facebook personal account is still working fine, you'll get a notification there as well, and in your business manager. So go through their appeal process. Personally, I lost my reflective marketing Instagram account for about a month this year, which is horrific if you're a social media marketing agency. But what I did basically is be a squeaky wheel. So I contacted Meta support in every possible way that I could, whether that was chat or submitting their forms, appealing. And the other thing that I did that made a big difference is that I did get the Meta verified So it's a paid subscription to Meta, but it does give you access to actual support reps. And that is ultimately how I got the account back, but it took a lot of time and energy and effort. So the best thing to do is to avoid it happening at all by knowing the policies and making sure you're following those things. But I'd also recommend the Meta Verified. Okay, Darren said he's going to start planning their marketing budget. Awesome. Dave says, great presentation. Just shows that marketing needs to use all your channels to drive lead generation. Absolutely. Okay, so links are in the chat there as well. We will send out an email with a link to the replay and all the resources that we went through today and the link to book a one-on-one call. But really appreciate all of you here. I'll hang around for the next 5 minutes if anybody else has any questions, but really appreciate all you guys showing up and can't wait to hear about how you smashed your goals in 2025. It's going to be awesome.